Hello and welcome to The Pickle, brought to you by AC4SA, Academic Coaching for Student Athletes, and co-hosted by Ethan O'Day and Jack Sundberg. Here on The Pickle, we discuss with our guests, ranging from coaches to professional athletes, the pickle of all things: academics, sports, recruiting, high school to the pros, you name it, we talk about it. Our goal for the podcast is to give people insight into the sports world and student athletes' perspectives by sharing current and former athletes, educators, and coaches' real-life experiences. Telling stories is one of the most powerful means for leaders to influence, teach, and inspire. These stories resonate in our culture, history, and lesson learned. The Pickle brings you these stories of adversity, triumph, failure, and determination to get inspired, to take them to your school, home, life, and court. Listen, learn, share, and enjoy. Today's guest is Max DeLorenzo from Berlin, Connecticut. He attended Berlin High School, where he was an all-state player and still holds numerous school records for rushing yards. From there, he went on to stay in his home state and play at the University of Connecticut, where he was a communication sciences major. After redshirting his freshman year, he went on to play every single season, becoming the starting tailback in his junior campaign. Max currently works at the state capitol in Connecticut and coaches football at his old high school in Berlin. Welcome to The Pickle.
All right, The Pickle Pod. We took a week off, but we're back and we're better. Super excited for our guest this week. Another Husky we got on, former Berlin High School legend and former running back for the UConn Huskies, Max DeLorenzo. Max, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan, Jack. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm fired up to have you on. I think, not only being a Connecticut guy, you're a high school football legend around here, but also, just being a Husky, and you're going to have some good insight on what it means to be a student athlete and just juggling a lot of things. So we do the rundown. I don't know if you've been watching, but, just some rapid fire questions. So everyone gets to know you a little bit better. So Ethan, take them away.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Here we go. Question number one, dinner with one athlete.
Dak Prescott.
Oh, I like that.
He's a true pro, true professional, as I like to say. Obviously been through a lot of adversity. I don't know. I just like to pick his brain a little bit.
I like that.
Maybe just to get some Cowboys insight, but.
All right. Number one thing on the bucket list.
Scuba diving. I don't know why. Always wanted to. Scuba diving with sharks, too.
That's a first. We have a lot of skydivers on here.
No, you couldn't.
Yep, me too.
If you gave me $50 million, I would not jump out of a plane. Absolutely
I think I would rather scuba dive with sharks as well.
100%.
Let's keep it moving. Favorite movie of all time?
Night at the Roxbury. Classic.
Oh, wow.
That's a great one. I think a lot of people forget about that movie too.
Yep.
Will Ferrell.
Sleeper.
How do you start your day every morning?
Well, I have two alarm clocks. One's my phone and the other is my 7.5-year-old son. So I'm waking up either by one of them or but just coffee, making breakfast, get ready for work and what the day has ahead of me.
Love it. And last question here. First quote that comes to mind.
If you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
I love that.
Yeah, I use that with my kids a lot. That was said to me by a former coach as well. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse because there's somebody out there always getting better.
Yeah, you might have to coin that one. Maybe TM that one.
Yeah,
on the back of the Berlin shirts or something. Awesome. That's it, man. You did it. Completed.
Rapid fire questions done.
All done.
Yes, sir.
You can flow right into the questions here. Jack, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we'll sort of just dive right in. I think, people don't really understand, especially Division I level football. You guys are, we've had Deontay Burton and Darnell Davis on who are both football guys. And, consistently they've talked about how, football programs, you guys are like really locked down. You guys are like more than any other sport, I think. Your film, lift, you're eating at the facility. You guys are like living there.
Hmm.
So talk a little bit about just your experience and, the commitment level, like the hours that you're putting in with the football program. Because I think that'll be great insight for, you know, student athletes now to hear, but also parents and coaches. Like, you guys are dedicating some serious hours.
Yep. Well, before I even get into that, the levels, knowing now as a coach and helping kids get into school, D2 and D3, it's the same. They're all trying to strive to be just like D1 programs, and
For sure.
they put in the time and hours as well. But yeah, it's physically draining. But not even that. It's, as more mentally draining because, workouts, practice, film, study hall, traveling. I could go on and on and on. Football just demands a different amount of mental level and physical level than any other sport, as you mentioned, not being biased. But it's tough, but you do have a lot of support. You have the academic support. Your teammates and coaches all have your back. So that's why there's only a select few that can do it, because it is tough. It is challenging.
Yeah. I mean, just talk about, it's funny because you're the first person to probably say, physical demands of football, because it's really like, you guys are going hard, like off season, season, and spring ball, like no matter what it is. And especially in college more of too, I think, rather than pro ball, like you guys are all out there trying to earn spots. There's no given spot. So anytime you guys are banging bodies around, you're going at it. Talk a little bit about that a little more, because I think that's, important to hear, because especially you're trying to get in the field.
Yep. It's a full contact sport for sure. And especially at the Division I level. And then if you want to take it a little further, you got grown freaks of nature, men running full speed into each other, like every play. So you're going to take your bumps and bruises. And, half of it, you got to recover on your own and take care of your body. But then again, like I said, the other big part is all mental, because like when you're tired, I remember conditioning tests, we had 16 100s.
Classic.
And, by rep 10, 11, you can't feel your body. You're just going through the motion. So that at that point, it's all mental. So just we have the cold tubs, the facility, the trainer. So you have the support, like I said, to take care of your body and handle yourself. But it's a grind.
Yeah, no doubt.
Funny, like I always would have this conversation with like other basketball guys when I was playing college basketball. I was like, damn, imagine if we had to play football right now and we were going and just hitting the crap out of each other right now.
Yeah, it's a little different.
On those days where you're not feeling it,
running.
I don't know how you guys do it, because it's like some days obviously you're not going to feel it and you got to find a way to figure it out. But talk about the biggest change when you went from high school to college. What was the biggest thing? Was it the film, attention to detail with that? Was it the game schedule, the practice schedule? What was the number one thing, if you could say, going from high school to college?
I'm fortunate here at Berlin, played through a good program, and we still have a good program here. So, we did watch film, we did work out, we did the passing leagues in the off season lifts. So all that was fine. It's just, you take that to a whole nother level. You scale that up times 10. But then again, I went from the top dog and big man on campus to thrown in the water with everyone else, who's just as good or better than me. So that was my biggest adjustment. I remember my freshman year, still to this day, we had preseason camp. Now our high school camp is 2-hour practice with like 30 minutes of film in there. College camp, 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., 2-a-days for a whole month straight. And that was the biggest adjustment, just the whole grind, the hours, obviously being on your own and having to manage time and your work. But my freshman year, that was a huge adjustment. I remember telling my parents I want to quit and not play anymore.
Wow.
True story.
Wow.
But you hit adversity just I hit adversity all 4.5 years, and you keep fighting through, and it would all work out. So
Yeah. Well,
probably
and it's
go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I was
I was
gonna
gonna say,
say that just the amount of time film a half hour in high school to 2.5 hours a night in college, practice an hour and a half in high school to at least 2 hours minimum, 2.5 hours college. So that was the biggest adjustment for me.
yeah. No, I was just gonna say, you go, Connecticut is not a huge place. It's a pretty small state, and even, sports competition. We're not Texas, Florida, California. Talk a little bit about, you go from Berlin High School, right? And you're pretty much. I mean, I knew about Max DeLorenzo before I knew Max DeLorenzo. Like he was the dude. I even, Bethel, like running for 350, like that's insane. So you go from being the guy in Connecticut, right, to all of a showing, just a dream for any Connecticut kid is to go to UConn. So you ended up at UConn, and then all of a sudden, it's a huge program. And UConn's, a story, just good athletic school. So you got guys from Texas coming in, California, Illinois,
Florida,
Mississippi,
Jersey. Oh yeah.
right, all over the place. So you go from, like, as you were hinting at a little bit before, like the big dog, like Berlin, Connecticut in general, and then all of a sudden you're facing guys from all over the country. Talk a little bit about that, just getting used to being like, wow, like I'm the dude, but like there's some serious dudes around here.
Yeah, and not even just about athletics. I mean, just being in the locker room with all those type of people. I mean, I was only around Berlin people and a select few of Connecticut people. So now I got dudes from Georgia, Florida, like you said, Cali, Jersey. So it's just different types of people coming in, and the bonds obviously you make in football or in sports in general, but definitely in football are unlike any other. And being around them and their families and learning different stuff. So I think that was a nice change for me, and that's definitely helped me in my workplace and making friends and being who I am today. And but yeah, you think you're the man, and no, there's a lot of dudes out there that are better than you and good. But again, you're there for a reason. Wherever you go, you're at that school, you're at that level, you're on that team for a reason. And it's your job to compete and know the stuff. And that's another thing. It's not just about how you are on the field. Like, you have to know the plays, you got to study the film and playbook, and there's a lot of different things that go into football. So, but yeah, there's a lot of athletes from bigger states all over the world.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, I thought that was really cool that you just said that, just about, it's like football, especially like the culture class. Like, you got so many different backgrounds of people coming in. Like baseball for me, I got a lot of guys who look like me. And then we got a little echo, boys. Is that me? Hold on real quick.
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, so I think, you have a lot of different cultures in football, especially. Baseball for me, I might go to school and everyone looks like me. But baseball, I mean, you got totally different backgrounds, races,
Football.
people. Yeah, football is totally different. So I think it's funny that you brought that up. You might go from Berlin, where everybody looks like you, to all of a sudden you're going to a super diverse team, where you got to make friends with people like, wow, I've never been around anybody like this before in my life. So I think it was funny that you brought that up, because that's really the first time even Ethan, I mean, we've had someone talk about that, on the pod, but I think that's really real, because all of a sudden you got to go and make new friends, be with a whole different team. And it's sort of like,
you put things into perspective, because like other people that I've been around, they're just, I'm not singling anybody out, but it's just, they're either Berlin or just they're their own cliques. And
right.
I was that, but then I jumped into a whole new world, and now I made connections and best friends, forever. And so,
yeah,
like Andrew Adams, who we talked about before, like, he's one of my best friends, Super Bowl champion, like, down where he's from in Atlanta, just his family, the way they cook, it's just, it's different than what I'm used to or what I've seen. So, besides just the play on the field with some of my former teammates. It's just the whole life in general.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Jack and I were talking about that recently too. Like, we're both from Eastern Connecticut, from Mansfield, and I was saying, like, dude, if it wasn't for basketball, like, wouldn't have been exposed to a lot of different cool things. Like, I was able to travel like around the world and play basketball, and then just see like so many different people and personalities and different cultures, and it is a really cool thing that people don't realize sports can do for you, especially if you're from smaller towns like all of us in Connecticut. Talk a little bit about your academic journey going through UConn. What was the process like getting recruited, and then how did you juggle football with your academics as your years went on there?
Well, I think the main thing in high school moving forward was that I wanted to make sure I got Spanish out of the way, my language class out of the way. I didn't want to take it in college because my recruiting coordinator was like, do it. You don't want to struggle with that at school. So in high school, just making sure I had all the credits and to get accepted. And then once I got there, Jack, you both know, it's hard. You're there for, you want to say football first or sports first, but it's really the other way around. But your focus and priority is more on your sport. But like they told us when I was getting recruited, you have to try to fail. We have, especially at UConn, we were spoiled, we have a facility with everything in it. We have a whole study room, study hall, lab, computers, printing facility, academic advisors, tutors. So you had everything you need. You really had to try to fail. Now, don't get me wrong, it was tough. Like I said, my freshman year for camp, I wanted to quit, and freshman year of school, I wanted to quit too, because it was just a very big adjustment. And going from high school work to college work to time management, it was a big adjustment. But I had my family for support, my teammates for support, academic staff. So, just like anything in life, you can't go through it alone. So that's how I went through college.
You guys, since we all went to these bigger state schools, do you remember your first experience walking into like a big lecture hall?
Oh.
And because I can think of this right now. I don't know why I just thought of it. Walking into a biology class, like my first semester of freshman year, and there's 200 people in there. And after it, I almost went like to my academic advisors, like, we got to get out of that ASAP. This was not even possible that I could, like, you got the clicker and you got the answers. Like, what was your experience, both your experiences with that? Because that's a weird thing.
Well, I think some of ours were like double that, right? 400.
Well, easy.
Yeah. And then each year you narrow down depending on your major, and but it was a struggle because it's not individualized. Like you're not getting called on really. It's a tough sell. It's tough. Some people can't handle it. Everyone's different learners. Like especially for me, football wise, I was a different learner than some other people. Some people could pick up the plays like that. Not me. I have to read it, see it, write it out. But yeah, that was a big, like, you're like, whoa, when you walk in.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you talked a little bit about just being a freshman, but I think especially for our listeners, I think it'd be cool for you to dive in just a little bit more, like how freshman year you were like totally overwhelmed. You were like, oh my gosh, like what did I get myself into? Mm-hmm. Just talk a little bit more about being a freshman and just being totally wide-eyed and like being like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah. Well, first I was offered and committed to one coach, and then he was gone before I even stepped on campus. So I had a whole nother coach who didn't even recruit me for when I started. So I thought that was in my head when I started. First for freshman year. But excuse me. Freshman year is a tough experience. I mean, you got to fit in. You got to try to figure out the ways of practice. The coaches are yelling a different way. You have older dudes yelling at you a different way. But honestly, I kid you not, Kashif Moore is one of the guys, but I really heavily relied on the older guys that been through it. That said, trust me, it's only going to get easier because camp's tough. That's all day, every day. Like I said, 2-a-days, and then once you get that 2-a-day, 1-a-day, 2-a-day, 1-a-day, back to back for like 2 weeks straight, it wears on you. And seen kids drop. I think I went into UConn with about 25 kids in our class, and I think we finished by my senior year. There was only like 12, 13 of us left. So that was just my class, but throughout camp, you just see everybody, just kids quit and drop left and right. And I'm a big, support person. I like to help out friends. I like to go see people for support, and I relied on my teammates and especially a couple of the older guys that to get through everything.
Yeah, that's really cool because we had Deontay Burton on, with the Cowboys there, and his experience at Kansas State was, he said very similar to you. Like there was so much support there, but it was just a matter of asking. Like he knew so many guys in his team who were just either too proud to ask or they didn't want to ask for help. But he's like, that's the only way that I got through, is that I checked my ego at the door and was like, I'm going to need help. I need to find the people who are going to be able to help me. So I think
that's the biggest thing too, is the ego part, because we're all very confident coming in, especially at that age with that much success, and then we get there. Like I remember somebody was tweeting in high school that he was going to be the starter at a position. Like, what are you talking about? And, he got into the program and, he saw it for real. So it's just keep your egos at the door, ask for the support. And that's a big thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, so I think this next question will be really, obviously specific to you. You had a sort of a unique story. You became a father in college, and that doesn't happen to a lot of people. And so you got football where you're trying to be the starting running back, be the guy for the team, and then you sprinkle in being a student on top of it, and then you become a father. Just talk a little bit about, a lot of people talk about, man, like I got a lot on my plate, but like you really had a lot on your plate. Talk a little bit about just your experience with that, and just, you obviously had to grow up quickly, and just, a unique story for sure.
Yeah, it sure was. But first I got my family, so that was obviously a big support. Their main goal was that I finished school and football over anything, which I did. And even to this day, like I'm 15 was my last year. So 6 years later, I'm still growing, still learning, still learning how to be a great dad. But I do have help at home, and, coaching, being a father, I believe it goes hand in hand. And now that I'm coaching my son, who's almost 8 now, and, baseball, football, basketball, and seeing his crop of friends, and kind of the same thing, how my dad used to, coach me in sports and all our kids. And hopefully we get that group coming up all together, sport wise. And, it's a great experience. I wouldn't, going through the football and happening in football and everything I've been through, like it only made me who I am right now, and much stronger. So yeah, I do have a lot on my plate. There's people that have it way more than me and way worse than I do. Not that it's worse, but it was a great experience, put it that way.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I mean, it's just very unique. We have a lot of unique stories, but I mean, I think that's definitely one of them. And just, it's cool to hear these stories, man, because it's like a lot of times you don't really hear about this stuff. And I think the Pickle Pod gives us a good opportunity to, tell people stories and listen and hear and learn from guys like Max DeLorenzo. So that's really cool. And so you mentioned, coaching now that you're a coach, which I'm sure is a little strange for you, because I'm sure you feel like you still want to be on the field.
Yeah, sure.
Talk a little bit about just being a coach now, and how your viewpoint has changed, as an athlete, and when you're playing, you think a certain way. Now talk a little bit about, from a coach's perspective, what your viewpoint is.
Well, I will say this, and any younger players listening, any sport, like I used to be like that freshman, sophomore, junior, taking a knee after practice at UConn, and we would have former players come back, NFL dudes, Teddy Bruschi, whoever, come back and speak. And what everyone says, and you guys heard it too, like, don't take practices for granted. Don't take your time here like it's going to go by like that. Okay, well, I'm sitting there, immature freshman. Okay, well, I'm just a freshman. I still got 4 more years. Then sophomore year, I still got a few more years. Junior year, I still got another year. And then before you know it, done, gone. Um, you know, both of you guys after your last basketball game, like dying to put the jersey back on, dying to put the pads back on. And I still feel like that to this day. So coaching definitely keeps me connected. I also been through stuff on the field, off the fields, in the locker room, that most people won't get to experience. So I like to share that. You guys think I know football. Okay, I don't know about football. There's so much to learn and know about football. It's pretty, it's crazy. Even these NFL coaches to this day are still learning. So, I'm learning how to still learning how to be a coach. Still, I've always been a leader in different ways. So leading, whether it's the youth kids like my son's age, or the high school kids I coach at Berlin, just helping them succeed on the field, watching them, make plays, smile on their faces. That fires me up and gives me that energy that out on the field that I miss. But that's the biggest thing now, just from being a coach to a player. All eyes are on me out of high school and college. It's all about me. When am I playing? When am I getting the ball? Like stats, headlines. And then now as a coach, your focus switches, kind of like a father. It's not about you anymore. It's about the kids. So that's what I try to do, and doing camps in the summer, coaching these kids. I just, whether, basketball too and baseball, because I played them all, and I know all the games to an extent, but just trying to share what I know and make these kids get better and help them succeed. And the best part is helping some of these kids get to schools, D3 prep schools, and using football to get there. Because especially out there now, like if you're a multiple sport player, I don't want to take this away from any other sports, but I think football is the highest percentage. I think it's like 8%. Get into college on football money. So I just love being around the kids, love helping them out, and some kids it's tough to deal with, but for the most part, all the parents and kids definitely appreciate what I have to offer. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I feel the same way. And I think Jack, when he's eventually done with baseball too, he'll feel that too. It's a really weird thing when you're done with your sport and you have this moment where you're like, maybe I want some time away from it. But a lot of guys I know too, they have to, coach at some capacity, do clinics. You need to fill that void with not playing, with trying to pass it on to the next generation. And I feel the same way when I do some coaching with basketball. It's a really cool moment where you're able to make something click for a kid, when you can kind of remember you going through that same process, and it's way different when you get someone else to do something that you're trying to teach them rather than it yourself. So it's a humbling thing. And I'm looking forward to maybe doing it with my kids someday too, coaching at youth sports, even though I'm doing it right now. Really young
honestly,
ones.
I almost question coaching, whether I was doing it for the right reasons before, because I'm not playing, am I just coaching just to stay connected, but that was how it was early on. And obviously my views have changed, and my role with the kids is much different and really enjoyable for them and me, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So moving along here, you talked a little bit about, just dying to put the jersey back on. It's just you're just like, man, I do anything to be back out there. And we talk a lot about on the Pickle Pod here, and when we work with student athletes, just you hear about all the time. It's hard. Freshman year, it's hard. It's not easy. And so, some student athletes might ask, well, why even do it? Why? Maybe I don't even get a full scholarship. Why even go play? So, what would be your response to sort of, what's the point of even playing at the next level? Why just, maybe just give up now? Because so how did it help change your life, mold your life, make you who you are?
Well, I was gonna say, because of the love of the game. But I had a former coach. He said he would go into kids' houses recruiting, and the first question he would ask is, "Do you love football?" And if it wasn't yes or right away or any hesitation, like doesn't matter who you were, like he wasn't going to recruit you. So I would say, obviously you want to play for the love of the game, especially if you're playing top level. You've probably been playing that sport for your whole life. And for most people after high school, that's it. And if you're lucky enough to continue on, that's one thing. Another reason, probably scholarship. That's why.
Yeah.
I don't care how hard it is. Suck it up and play for your family's sake. And maybe just something to prove. I think I felt like that a little bit at times. I did what I did in Berlin, and for some reason, I guess it still wasn't good enough. And I only had one offer coming out of there when I felt like, and was told I should have had more. And so I always had a little chip on my shoulder, no matter what. And throughout all the tough freshman year, sophomore year, I had some success and started, and then same thing my redshirt sophomore year, and then my coach got fired. Another guy comes in, so always something to prove. That's why not? Everyone's after you. Show up, do what you got to do. Everything's hard. Yes, Division I sports is hard. D2, D3 is hard, but what in life isn't hard? Setting up this podcast, trying to get Tim Boyle. How is that hard? Is that you?
Yeah. Tim, I hope you hear that.
But I like that, learning something about yourself, because I think we can all say you learn after going through 4 years of playing a college sport. You learn a lot about yourself. And, and go through that process. So that's a great reason to play sports in general, in college, high school, any level. You learn what you're all about and figure out who you are. Let's go to the final question here. If you could talk to your younger self here, Max, and you're about to go through this whole process, going through playing college football, what would you tell your younger self? What type of advice would you give him?
The same advice that all the other people were given to me. And I'm not going to say like I sat there and like rolled my eyes or didn't listen to it, because that's not who I am. Like, I'm a respectful dude, like no matter what. And I tried to take in advice from everybody. But you're young. You don't know everything yet. But it's just, I used to go out to practice and be like 20, 30 period practice today. Like, 2.5 hour practice today. Like, we're about to do, pass blocking where the linebackers just bull rush the running back. Like, here we go. So again, if it's in any advice, any sport, the game is bigger than any one of us. It could be taken away from us like that. I've seen dudes go down, injuries. We've seen it on TV all the time. Any sport, you could be done like that. So whenever you go out to practice, game, any workout, always try to get better. And remember, it's going to go by like snap your fingers and it's over, and you're going to wish you could, because there's so many things I regret. So many. Not in the bad way, but just, half-assing drills or dicking around in the weight room, just something stupid where I wish I got a little bit better and would have gave me more of an advantage. So take every play like we used to say at UConn for Jasper Howard's passing, play every play like it's your last play. So if that's any advice, and he's a pure example, was playing in front of thousands of people that day and that night. An unfortunate event happened and everything was gone. So that's my advice.
Yeah.
Hardest thing in any sport is the practice, repetition, and finding a way to like stay locked in on your 1,000th practice in a row. And I think about that all the time. Like, man, I wish I just would have been like I would do anything. Like if I could just go back to one of those harder practices and just have a better mindset going into it. But that's great advice, because if you can find a way to get that negative energy out the way before you get into the practice, it'll be too.
Think about it for football. It's different too, because you only get 10 games, and you go all, after the fall's over, you go all winter workouts, spring practice, which is 15 practices, full contact all summer. You're there all summer, and then you got all camp, and then it's for one game a week. You're not playing 2-3 times a week. Baseball's every day, so it's like we said, it's a grind, and only select few can handle it. But when you do handle it, it's worth it.
Yeah. No, it is funny with football too. It's like you guys put in so much time and so much work, and then you really only get 10 games. It's like, it's just nuts. Basketball, like you said, 2-3 times a week. Baseball, you're playing, 4 or 5 times a week.
And the contact and injuries, and just your body's not supposed to move the way it does. You never know.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And before we let you go, I want to ask you one more question, because I think you talked about a little bit before, your experience at UConn. There was, with sports, there's just a lot of uncertainty, like, injuries, scholarship, stuff like that. But for you especially, you went through a lot of different coaches. And it happens all the time at universities. We had a guy on a couple of weeks ago who he was all committed to go to Yale. All new coaching staff came in. All of a sudden he lost his offer. So talk a little bit about just different coaches coming in and you having to just sort of adjust. Like, a new coach is here. I guess kind of find my way to work with them.
I had the one coach, and then you have your head coach, obviously, coordinator, position coach. And we had that head coach, and obviously my freshman year, I was just trying to make it to the next day. So that was my goal freshman year. I redshirted. I was the only scout running back. I was running versus an NFL defense across the board. Byron Jones, Andrew Adams, Dwayne Gratz, Bleedy Ray Wilson, Kendall Reyes, C.O. Moore, all guys in the league. And like I said, I wanted to quit. And then at the year after that, you grow a lot after that freshman year. And then after that, you really start to establish yourself and figure out, where you're going to play, like when you're going to play, and find a role. Was able to do that. And then again, the next year, my redshirt sophomore year, really established myself, but we're losing, and then gone. And then more running back coaches, interim coach for the rest of the year. That was going great. After that got established, done, because they hire somebody else, a whole new staff comes in. And I had, with Coach Diaco, we had, a couple OCs, a couple running back coaches throughout those years. And it's tough because football, everything's the same. Power's power. Hail Mary, and dumber terms. But everybody's got different lingo. All the language is different. All the terminology is different. So that was the toughest part, learning that. Picking up on the terminology, because we had NFL guys come in, bring their NFL stuff, college guys, college stuff, and mix it in between. So it was a lot, and you had to adjust, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy in any way, shape, or form, and you got to be mentally tough to get through it. And most of us did. Most of us did.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I think I wanted to hear that just because it's so tough. I mean, and it happens all the time. A new coaching staff comes in, and then it's
not even that. It's more culture,
Yes.
practice, you know, the whole camp attitude, you know, traveling's different, hotels are different, the whole itinerary. So that also too can mess with you. You know, you get 2.5 years of one dude, someone else comes, not only a whole new scheme and terminology and new faces as coaches, it's the whole nine. You know, like I said, weight room's different, practices are different, workouts are different, just stuff you're not used to. And you got to adjust on the fly, but that's football though. We call it sudden change in football. You know, offense is out there, but they throw a pick, boom, defense is now out there, sudden change, something quick in the game happens. And you got to adjust. Football, game of adjustments, and just like life. So that's why football, life, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. I mean, in life in general, and it's cool that's, you know, because you're an athlete, you experience these things when you're 18, 19, 20, 21. So now when you're out there, you know, hustling at the Capitol, it's like, oh, I've been through this. I know this is about.
I thought I was so mature and old in college. Like, I thought I was 21 going on 31, and night and day different. Night and day from now. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that is crazy. All right, D'Lo, I appreciate you coming on, man, and you definitely shed some wisdom. Yeah, for sure.
Good to talk, Ethan. Good to meet you.
Yes, good talking to you.
Thank you for having me, and I'm sure we'll all be in touch. Let me know if I can help in any way.
Sounds good.
Thanks for tuning in to The Pickle, who is brought to you by AC4SA, academic coaching for student athletes, whose goal is to use the power of sport to unleash the athlete's potential in the academic arena.